In this video, we'll continue where we left off from our last video. We had just finished building our background image with the action tool. Now we want to comp them together. But before I do that, I want to create another compass so I can easily select and move all the nodes that are part of my background. I'll hit the C key to access the Draw Compass tool, and I'll region select all of the nodes that are part of my background. I release that and we'll name this background. I want to change the color of my background, so I'll click on the little color pot in the upper right corner, and I'll choose this dark orange as the color. Now I'm still in the Draw Compass tool, so I'm going to hit the M key to go back to my Select tool. So now I can easily manipulate my background nodes if needed. Let's combine our comped talent together with our background that we created. So let's go down to our effects nodes once again, hit the C key to access our C tools, and there's the comp node. I drag it up and into the schematic. Holding Option and Shift, I extend out the front red input and I'll click on the result yellow output for the comp. I will release the Option key and click on it again to now expose and extend the background. I'll click in the lower right corner of the action node to connect that result. I'll release the Option key once again and click down to get the matte for the front input, and I feed that into there. So now we have our talent composited over our background. Now that I see them composited together, I like what we did in the action tool, creating depth of field, the lighting effects, and the blur effects. But I think we might want to blur the background even a touch more. So instead of going back and accessing all the different blurs that we've applied, let's just add a blur node after the end result of action before it goes into our comp node. So I'll take a blur node, drag it out. Holding the Shift key, when I bring it over the connection line, you'll see that it highlights. I just release my cursor and the blur is applied. Double-clicking on the blur brings me to parameters. Now, if I start to make adjustments to this, it's hard for me to judge exactly how much blur effect I want without seeing the result of the comp. So to solve that, let's select our comp node, right-click on it, come down to where it reads Set as Context, choose Set as Context 1. I click on this viewport, and I go to the Viewing, and I'm going to choose Context 1. I could have hit the space bar and the 1 key as a hotkey. In this flyout, you can see that all 10 contexts have a hotkey. Space 1, space 2, space 3, space 4, space 5, 6, 7, 8, and 0 for context 10. But I will choose Context 1, so now in the lower right corner we see it reads Result Comp Node Context 1. Now I can go back to my blur tool and I can start making adjustments to this to see what I like and what I don't like. I think a blur of around 6 will be fine. That just softens it up just a little bit more. The next thing I'd like to do is create a light wrap that is going around the talent. To do that, we can use the comp node that is compositing the talent together. But we're going to first need to negate the matte. So I'm going to go down to my effects nodes once again. I'll hit the N key. There's only one tool that starts with N, and that is called the negate. I drag that into the scene, and I'm going to hold Option Shift, and I want the front input to connect to the blue output, the matte output of this comp, not the yellow result. You want the matte. So there we have it. I select this now. Oh, I forgot, this viewport is still looking at our context point, so I'll hit F4 to look at the end result of this node. Now I want to really blur the result of the negate tool, so I'm going to come down to my bin, hit the B key, and drag a blur in and connect it by holding Option Shift. Double click on the blur node, and I'm just going to crank this up. I want to be somewhere about 30. Let's go 35. No, that's too much. Bring it down just a touch. 32. Yeah, that's better. 32 will be the amount for our width and our height. Now I want to composite the end result of this blur with the matte output from our original comp of the people. So let me first zoom in a little bit so we can see our nodes a little better. And I'll go back down to my effects node and hit the C key once again to bring in another composite node. I want the matte output, the blue output of this comp, which is compositing the talent, and feed that into the red input for this comp node. Then I'm going to take the yellow result of our blur and feed it into the background of this. Double clicking on our new comp node, I want to switch my blend mode to be multiply. As part of the light wrap, I'm going to add another blur tool to the end result of my action tool, but I'm going to really blur it as part of the composite that is going to create the light wrap. So Go back to my effects node, get another blur tool. I'll drag it in, and I'll take the yellow output and feed that into the red input. Double click on this blur to access its parameters. I'm going to take this blur amount pretty heavy. I'm going to take this up to about 40. So in fact, I'll just click in the field and enter 40 with proportional on, so both the height and the width are blurred. So this is what we're going to composite with this and our background to create the light wrap. So I need another comp node. This time I'm just going to right click on this one and choose duplicate to get another one. Now I'm going to take the end result of this comp and I feed this into the background for my comp node. Then I'm going to take this blurred version of the background and feed that into the front input. And then I'll take this comp we just created, I feed the main output into the matte input for our front. Now I select this node and I'll change the blend mode from multiply to max lighten. And now we can see the light wrap effect. Let me first just tidy up my nodes a little bit here. Now I want to soften and blur the edge of both the talents even further. So to do that, we'll go back down to our nodes and I want to get my matte edge tool. So I click the M key. I'll take the matte edge tool and bring it out into my schematic. I want to take the matte from this comp. In fact, let's rename this. I'm just going to rename this comp underscore talent. Just so it's easy to find it since we're repurposing it a lot. But I'll take the matte output, the blue output, feed that into the main red input for my matte edge tool. Then I'll double click on the matte edge tool. Down below, turn on edges. Where it reads basic, I want to click on that and choose advanced. I'll hold the space bar and give us a little more room as we move along here. Come down to our tools once again. Let's get another blur tool. I'll bring it in. We'll feed the main output for our comp into the red input. I'll take the yellow result from our matte edge tool and feed it into the blue matte input. Double click on it to access its parameters. Now if you start to make adjustments, you're going to be like, wait a minute, I'm blurring everything. Why is that? You need to turn on use matte if you want this blur node to use the matte input. So I turn on use matte and now you can see we can blur just the edge based on this matte. I'll set my amount for my blur to about 10 for the end result. And now if we zoom in, we look at the edge of him, we now have a nice light wrap and we have a nice blur happening along the edge. I'll click the fit button. In the next video, we're going to take a look at creating a slight camera movement with a 2D transform and also continue to develop the look of the shot by creating an artistic blur.